Oh yeah, baby, it's Le Mans. Happy New Year, Rommies! Welcome to Rom, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing, and to our regular news roundup, our weekly sim racing news. Thanks to all those who come here often, especially those who subscribe, and even more to our patrons. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. While we took a couple of weeks off without news, the world of sim racing kept turning and brought us more than enough to make this video quite juicy. Next week we won't have our classic news video, but rather different videos following our visit of the Sim Formula Europe in Maastricht. I hope I said that right. And the conversations we're going to have there, especially with companies who were not on the Sim Racing Expo in Dortmund. We have one video we expect to release on Saturday, and then, depending on how many interviews we do, about 4 or more videos in the week after that. We're still finalizing some details, so we'll have to see how many videos we end up making. But we don't expect to have the time or energy to do our standard news video, as we're gonna be spending the weekend on the expo. And we're still working on getting our meeting with Mr. Hebecker of Rennsport after he couldn't make it last month, so our podcast won't be on time this time either, as we hope to meet with him over video call the weekend after next. Sim racing's busy, we're keeping busy. That's a good start of the year, innit? A word of warning if you play EA's WRC in career mode. Just shortly after the 1.4.0 update on December 11th, the developers got notice that some benefactor objectives or combination of those lead to a game crash the moment you try to continue your career. Especially if you are in career mode Season 2 or further, or Junior WRC, you can experience this crash, which does not happen in career mode 1. If your game crashes, it takes down your save, so your whole career is gone forever. You can either wait until the issue is solved or start a new career. EA expect to have a hotfix ready for mid of January, but are making no promises. Which is only fair, as solving a bug without messing up further is a difficult thing, and you want to find out what went wrong and how before you work on the solution, unless you want to make the situation messier than it was before. What we find bothersome is that this is not information you find on Steam by following the updates of WRC, as they are mum about it. You have to specifically follow the bug reports of EA's WRC on the EA page to be aware of this. A messed up information policy if there ever was one. For us, also an indication of how nervous EA are with regards to WRC, that they keep this information rather hidden below the fold. Heavy Duty Challenge doesn't exist anymore, or kinda. The developers have changed the name into Off-Road Truck Simulator and have pivoted the game away from being only predefined parkours, expanding into something of a more realistic snow runner. They've kept the part of moving through very difficult terrain and some parkours, but have added some free roaming, the transportation of heavy materials, and being able to roam through Utah, or at least maps that looked like it. They have added being able to drive on a Mercedes Unimog, the most classic of heavy duties we can think of, a MAN TGS, and a Hummer H1. It's an interesting pivot that keeps the core and, in our opinion, the soul of the game, while giving it more mass appeal. We'll sure have a go at this new-ish turn of the game, which was already quite interesting in its first form. Let's see what the developers come out with next. Race Room developers did some small paintbrushes to the sim in between the years, with AI improvements all around, different cars and tracks, some tire work, and updating the brake behavior on the touring class, as well as having turbo pressure building up properly. No good deed goes unpunished, no release unpatched, it seems. At the end of last year, iRacing published a patch to the 2024 Season 1, making it the second they had to apply. This patch solved some issues with the user experience, like iRacing open up the session info and not the user profile when instructed to do the latter, or issues with the car and track info. A change has been done to the trees. When graphics memory is running low, trees are going to be downgraded in quality. Truth to be told, I'm not the kind of driver that has the time to even realize there are trees on the track unless I'm unlucky enough to meet one of them, if you understand. A lot of fine-tuning was also made to the damage model of the GTP, LMP3 and LMP2 cars, and some of the cars got new standard setups. Mugello and Okayama got some graphics corrections and Chicago got DRS zones. The holidays, time of giving. Giving hotfixes, for example, which is what the Beam.NG developers did, raising the version count to 0.31.2. A lot of cars got graphics updates and corrections in the deformation parameters, as well as fixes in handling the newly introduced cargo box, but strangely enough, there were issues like the physics getting all wonky in the Gavril T when the door glass was removed. Now, things like the Pessima not getting more power even after using a sports intake is an understandable issue, or the myriad of issues coming with the new trailers. Speaking about wonky, seems something went awry with many of the maps as the spawn points had to be corrected. Also, they added a car radar for races like the one Assetto Corsa Competizione and Automobilista 2 have. Some UI corrections close the list of Beam.NG changes for now. 2 days after I was worried we had maybe reached peak sim racing, the numbers for December speak a completely different language. Not only did we have more sim races than ever before, with almost 31,000 overall, 3 racing sims had their most average daily users ever. On the one hand, we have our well-known Beam.NG and Assetto Corsa, the latter with almost, but not quite 10,000 users, but the third one's a happy surprise for us, as Automobilista 2 reached 740 average daily users. Of course, delivering Le Mans and LMDH cars sent people scrambling for the racing seat, but that only came out almost the last day of last year. As Automobilista 2 fans, we're happy to see that sim thrive. In fact, almost the only sim that was contrary to this very positive trend was R-Factor 2, which numbers went down a bit. Not a significant descent, but compared with all other numbers, a surprising development. Not a surprise, on the other hand, was the drop in number for EA's WRC. The big bug we told you on the short news is surely only part of the story. Another important part is that the numbers for Dirt Rally 2 went up and surpassed the EA WRC numbers. Seems people are eager for a good rally sim, but WRC is not as good as scratching that itch as Dirt Rally 2 is. Overall, December broke the trend and it seems Santa brought many sims to people. We're happy more and more drivers share our hobby no matter what they drive and welcome them all into the family. We'll see next month if this was a small peak or if, after months of good but not excellent numbers, sim racing's on the rise again. Just in time before the turn of the year, Reiza released Le Mans and the content of the first Endurance Pack DLC, thus just fulfilling their promise to release that content before the end of the year. Automobilista 2 is now on version 1.5.5.1 and it brings the 24 hours of Le Mans track as well as the much shorter Bugatti layout, the non-24 hour track, so to speak. Both, by the way, laser scanned according to Reiza. Fitting Le Mans, 2 new car classes come into Automobilista 2 with the Endurance Pack Part 1 DLC. The LMDH class featuring the BMW M Hybrid V8, Cadillac V-Series R, and the Porsche 963 GTP, and the GT3 Gen 2 class featuring BMW M4, McLaren 720S Evo, 2023 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, and the Porsche 992 GT3R. After a short for-free phase where you could test the DLCs, Track and Cars are available in 2 different DLCs for $10 or €9. As the name implies, the Endurance Pack is planned to be followed by a second pack with more cars in the present classes, as well as LMP2s, LMP3s and GTEs, with cars Reiza says will have a more Latin flavor. And further historic versions of Le Mans will also appear on the sim. Of course, driver swaps are rearing their head, as you can swap your place with an AI driver in an endurance race. Driver swaps between players are not yet implemented, but planned for the future. Don't hold your breath though, they're not an easy thing to do. Another interesting thing coming in this version are track light LED panels. For now, you can only see green and full course yellow in Le Mans and Montreal, but Reiza themselves say it's a work in progress. Expect this to be supported for more situations and tracks, and also only for specific sectors. Interlagos 91-93 and Cleveland got minor corrections, as did many cars. Reiza added or updated championships for different classes, among them all Formula classes as well as many others. The details as always following the link in the description of this video. Also, they've added points delivery for the championships, as well as allowing you to set up your own scoring in the custom championship editor. You can have a class filter now at the end of the weekend screen, and they have fixed some issues in championships. If your system is sluggish when having many cars on track, you can now limit the amount of visible vehicles. This will especially be important at night, where many drivers seem to have had issues in the past. After a hotfix on Friday, this mostly means cars ahead of you. While we're talking graphics, the raindrop visuals have been improved, as well as the undertray sparks. In the physics department, and because of the introduction of the LMDH prototypes, Reiza have now implemented what is called third springs, which only affect vertical movement and are normally used in cars with lots of downforce to stabilize the car, especially in the braking zone. The progressive part means they are stronger the more they are compressed, which would make a lot of sense when we talk braking. If you have any questions about that, our resident engineer Ike will surely be able to enlighten you as he did enlighten us. The force feedback has been revised for a lot of GT cars and classes, and the traction control now gets activated a little bit differently on GTE, GT4 and GT3 Gen 1 classes. The AI has learned to make mistakes, as well as dealing better with blue flags, among many other small things. In the audio department, you will be able to adjust the level of audio reverb and wall reflections. Reiza also added engine starter sounds for many cars and overall corrected engine sounds of some different cars. All this is great, but Reiza already are working on what did not make it into this version. Setting the headlights on high beam, a way to flash lap traffic, and further changes. And a more detailed LMDH ERS modeling in line with the WEC rules. Also, they continue their search for multiplayer issues and have extended the logging function they introduced to be able to pinpoint and correct those issues. For 2024, Reiza expect to bring out more content, but deliver their updates only about every quarter, as the expanded user base and expanded content bring the need for keeping the sim stable, and that comes at the cost of testing the sim thoroughly before releasing. No promise of being more punctual though, we would not believe them anyway. They tease premium content licenses, further classes and fresh motorsport disciplines to be released this year. Endurance they have, rallycross they have, standard racing they have, ovals they've dabbled in, although a bit more oval racing would be great. Dirt ovals? Stadium super trucks? Drifting? We'll have to wait and see, I suppose.